In this video, I am going to teach you exactly how you can grow your edges back fast, how to keep your edges, how to regrow your edges, your hairline. If you have been struggling with your edges, this is the video for you because I'm going to be breaking everything down in detail. My edges are pretty full all the way around. By the way, I consider edges your entire hairline, at least 2 to 3 inches of the front of your head. I do have an entire playlist on edges, and I've seen some people in the video saying, well, those aren't necessarily baby hairs. I'm not necessarily talking about baby hair because actually not everybody has baby hair. Believe it or not, some people just have full hair starting from the beginning, and some people have very fine baby hair that is a completely different texture. What I'm focusing on this video is all the hair that includes the baby hair if you have it, and the hair that's right at the hairline of your head. So I'm talking about like a full, I guess this is about a 1 inch, but some people suffer hair loss even almost up to 2 inches. So there we go. That's how long my edges are. Sometimes people's issue is not necessarily that you don't have hair, maybe it's just that it keeps breaking or there's literally no hair there. So both cases, this is going to help you out. So if you don't know me, my name is Angelica. I post videos twice a week, every single week, about growing long, healthy hair. And right now I'm going through a beautiful growth spurt. My hair is flourishing. So if you want my tips on how to grow long, beautiful hair as well, consider subscribing. The subscription button is right down there, as well as the bell icon. Make sure you hit the bell so you get notifications every single time I post a video. And if you request one, it might just pop up, so you want to see it. Let's get into it. So tight hairstyles. Tight hairstyles are one of the #1 reasons for hair damage, hair loss, hair breakage in the front of your hair. And there's lots of ways to avoid this, which is one, just do away with the styles altogether, like the ones on the screen right here. Also, you could try and change the way you do those hairstyles. So one of the worst things about tight hairstyles is that they cause traction alopecia. And traction alopecia is a form of alopecia which damages your hair from the follicle. So it's basically like a form of balding. Now, if you have alopecia areata, that is an autoimmune disease that is completely different, and you'd need help from a medical professional or a dermatologist. These tips could possibly help you, but I would still suggest you go the other route because that is something that is internal. It is completely different, where your body basically attacks your own hair because it sees it as something that is harming you. So that is completely different. By tight hairstyles, I'm talking about mechanical manipulation, which means if you constantly keep pulling the hairs out, imagine it like waxing. If you wax your hair, if you wax your arms, your armpits, whatever, eventually the hair starts to grow back a little bit finer. It starts to grow back a little bit more sparse. And sometimes it might not grow back altogether in certain spots. This is kind of similar except worse on your hairline, because if it starts to cause traction alopecia, you may get to a point where the damage is irreversible. And once it starts to smooth over, that means it is scarring, just like normal male or female pattern balding. It can be very distracting and disheartening if you flat iron your hair, or if you put your hair in little twists and stuff, and everywhere it looks amazing, and right in the front of your head where everyone can see, it's just very damaged. So tight twists, cornrows, micro braids, micro twists, Senegalese twists, Havana twists, cornrows, it doesn't matter what the hairstyle is. If it is too tight at your hairline and it's pulling your hair out, it's going to cause severe damage. I'm going to give an example of a video that I did, which I feel like, I hope it's doing what I meant it to do and not the opposite. I did mention it in this video. This is about 2 years old, but I'll put a picture of the thumbnail here. This is a video on how to loosen tight braids. And the reason I made this video is because a lot of the time I'm quite tender-headed. So a lot of the times when I'd go to the hair salon, when they would braid my hair, I would just feel I'd have like a little bit of a headache, which is caused by tension. Although I would always make sure, up to now, whenever I braid my hair, I know it's been a long time, but whenever I do get any kind of braids, especially box braids or anything like that, twists, I make sure that they are not braided too tight, and I make sure they do not braid my edges. Either way, no matter how loose they make them, I would still experience a little bit of tension. So what I would do is, I explained it in that video, basically I would get warm water, mix it with my leave-in conditioner, and I would spray it all over my scalp to sort of loosen my hair a little bit. Now, you don't want to make your hair wet, because wet hair is very fragile, and if it's wet and it's already been pulled, then it's easy for it to snap and break, and it can actually cause more damage. Now, if your hair is extremely tight, that even lightly spraying and adding some tea tree and peppermint oil on your scalp does not add any relief. I mentioned this in that video, which is, If your braids are too tight, I don't care if you paid $3,500 like this girl. I don't know if she actually paid that, but this picture went viral online. Whether you paid $3,500 or $20 to get your hair braided, you have to weigh the cost. Is your hair worth losing all of it, possibly permanently, for that price, or you care about your hair more? So this is what I say. Give it 1 to 2 days. If your hair doesn't loosen up, take it out. Now, the 1 to 2 days is if your pain is manageable because you're tender-headed, or it just feels like you have a headache, like, you know, maybe a little section just feels a little bit too tight. If the pain is severe, if it feels like your scalp is on fire, if it feels like your hair is being pulled so much you can't even raise your eyebrows, just take it out. Let's get to point number 2. Okay, so this one, I'm almost seeing that I didn't necessarily write this in any particular order, but now that I'm looking at it, I think I kind of did write it in an order, because something that is very, very damaging to even more and more and more damage. So this second point is something that I've noticed that causes a lot of damage. So much damage. And this is, especially, I'm giving this from the experience of people who've come to me personally and asked for these tips, or people who've watched my videos and said this worked and now it doesn't work anymore. And this is, you watch all the videos in my other playlist, or you watch this video and you get the tips and you're like, yes, okay, I'm going to stop doing tight hairstyles. I'm going to stop doing protective styles altogether if they are damaging my hair. I'm going to leave some time for my edges to breathe. I'm going to let my edges grow out and stuff. And I would see people like this who would literally have traction alopecia. They ask me for some tips and I tell them, and then maybe 2 to 3 months later, they're like, oh my God, look, my hair is growing back. I can see it's growing back fast. My edges are coming in. My edges are getting full. They've never looked like this before. And I'm like, yes, you're doing the right thing. And then I see them another month later. They have the exact style that ripped their edges out in the first place. And then you go back to square one. So please, if you've been following tips, even if they are none of the tips I've mentioned, you've just figured out whatever routine you think works for you, and somehow your edges have started to grow back, please give your edges at least a good 6 months of something else. Don't go back to whatever damaged your edges in the first place, because you're going to go back to square one, and then you probably say, okay, I guess I just, I got a little crazy. Let me go back and do what I did to fix them. And then you're going to be in a cycle until you reach a point where you're just like, you know what? I think I just have weak edges. I think my edges just get damaged easily because I see other people doing these hairstyles and their edges are fine. It's not about other people. Forget about other people. It is specifically about you. Once you get these tips and make them work for you however they work, once your hair starts growing, please don't get excited and start doing the micro twists and Senegalese twists. Trust me, I know. And I even know people who watch this channel. If you're watching this channel, comment and just let us know that it's you, because you know who you are. You braid your hair, you twist your hair, you do whatever, your hair grows back in the hairstyle again. You're like, look, my edges are gone again. It's your fault. Just leave them alone. Let them breathe, okay? Let's get into tip number 3. Okay, so tip number 3 might be the most difficult to incorporate in this, only because of the comments I've seen on a lot of my videos, and also what a lot of people personally tell me, and not from personal experience, because unfortunately I'm not this kind of person, or maybe fortunately. But tip number 3 is speak up, okay? Just find your voice and speak up. I know that in lots of people's cultures, children have been told, children are told to be seen and not heard, okay? So you're used to avoid confrontation by all means. You don't want to speak up. You go to the hair salon and someone does your hair and it comes looking like absolute crap, and you're like, yeah, it looks nice. And then you go home and you're like, this is horrible, and you're crying. Someone is flat ironing your hair and they are going over your edges so many times and being violent. They are braiding your hair and they are braiding the braids so tight, and you're just sat there with tears in your eyes like, I only have to sit here for 1 more hour. Or you tell your stylist to be gentle, like, can you please be a little bit more gentle? And they're like, this is just how I braid your hair. Like, you want it to look neat? Okay, you want your hair to look neat? Let me braid the way I braid all my clients. Or you tell them, can you not braid my edges? And they're like, no, but if you don't braid your edges, your hair is going to be very untidy. These are things stylists I have gone to have told me before. Your hair is going to look so untidy. I'm like, it's fine. It's fine. Speak up. The other thing is, I've heard a lot of people say, especially under my video on how to loosen tight braids, because my first tip in that video is, if you don't have the braids yet and you're planning to go and get some braids in, the first thing you can do to loosen your tight braids is to not make them tight in the first place. So once the stylist starts braiding your hair, tell them to not do it so tight. And then a lot of people say, but my hair didn't feel tight when I was in the hair salon. I only felt the tightness after I went home and I sat down for a little bit. Here's the thing. If this is not the first time you've braided your hair, you know what it feels like every single time they braid your hair. So if the hair feels exactly the same as it always does while you're braiding your hair, and you know when you get home, the pain is going to start, make sure they braid it a little bit looser than how they braided it the last time. And then the other thing for speaking up is just sometimes stylists are very rude or they can get very aggravated. Sometimes it may not be your fault. Sometimes maybe they've just had a long day. They've done everybody's hair exactly the same way and no one has complained, and you come in and you're like, don't braid my edges. I don't want my hair to be too tight. Even if they get annoyed, you are paying for a service. It is not for free. And if you don't want to pay them for a service, you can go to someone else to pay for a service. If it is your mom, if it is your friend, all the more easy. You should just be like, I think make it a little bit looser. If they get upset and say, you know what, why don't you braid it yourself? Say, thank you, I'm not paying for this service. Walk out of the hair salon and find another stylist who's actually going to listen to you. It is the best thing you can do. I know it can be a little bit difficult, but once you start to do it, it won't be so difficult. I am, I guess, who you'd call the difficult customer. I haven't been to the hair salon in years. I did a video about that. But if you start to do my hair wrong and I tell you to fix it and you don't do it, I'm going to get up and leave and say, sorry, I'm not paying for this service. Goodbye. I'll find someone else who's going to do it. I don't even do the thing where they turn me around from the mirror and start braiding my hair where I can't see. I'm like, turn the mirror back. I want to see what you're doing. Okay. That is just me. And so you could be a little in between. You don't have to be as extra as me. Just, also be very polite. I'm very polite when I say it. When I'm saying it here, I'm over dramatizing. But when you're in the hair salon, genuinely, when you're nice to people in general, they will do whatever you want. Okay. Could you please be a little bit more gentle? Can you please not pull it a little bit so tight? I have a problem with my edges. They usually break. So even if it looks untidy, it's okay. Can you just not braid them? Don't be like, excuse me, can you not do that? Because then you're going to have a problem, okay? Be very polite. And anyone want to do what you want them to do. Before I get into the fourth tip, I want to mention that if you think I've missed out on a tip, it's because I don't like to repeat myself too many times. I do have a whole playlist on edges, like I said, and I will link that at the end of this video. So if there's a tip you think I should have mentioned, check those videos out first. And then if I haven't mentioned, you can always let me know and I can make a full video about it. So the fourth tip is to make a scalp and follicle boosting oil. Right now, what has shown me the most growth, not only on my edges, but on all my hair, like you guys can see, this growth is crazy. On all my hair, including my edges, has been my Moringa oil. I do have a video on how to make this. I will link it. I think I can link that in the eye right here, so you can check out how to make it. But if you don't want to check that out, basically in this oil, there is moringa powder that was eventually strained out, some peppermint oil, rosemary oil, and tea tree oil. Tea tree oil is antibacterial, antimicrobial, which means it's going to prevent dandruff. And sometimes dandruff and dry and flaky scalp can damage your follicles. You'll be scratching and stuff, especially on your hairline. That can be extremely damaging. Peppermint oil is very stimulating. It promotes hair growth. It just sends lots of blood flow to your scalp. In conjunction with a scalp massage, these oils are going to go into your scalp. They increase the depth of the follicle, which means your hair is going to be like really, stuck in there tight. Peppermint oil, when it was tested on mice back in the day, according to scientists, it actually increased the amount of follicles on the scalp. Now, apparently humans cannot increase the amount of follicles at the scalp, but here's the thing. There's follicles underneath your scalp, and then there's follicles that are on your scalp. So sometimes if your follicles are extremely clogged, it might just be like there's no follicles on the scalp. But if you just massage them, wake the dormant follicles and wake them up, they can appear on the scalp. But you can't increase them, they'll just appear more. So tea tree, peppermint, and rosemary oil are amazing. Rosemary oil has actually been compared to actual medicine that is prescribed by dermatologists for hair growth, and the rosemary oil has been proven to be just as effective or even more effective than that treatment. So rosemary oil is also something that is extremely amazing for hair growth, and it will really boost the growth of your edges. I just feel like it's not as popular because it is not like peppermint or tea tree oil in the sense that when you put it on your scalp, you would not feel any kind of tingling sensation or cooling sensation. It just feels like nothing, so you don't actually feel it doing anything, and I feel like that's that's why it's not so popular as an essential oil. But also always remember, you always have to mix in your essential oil with a carrier oil. And for your edges, castor oil is one I actually agree with, but still not every single day because it can cause moisture overload. Even though oils don't moisturize, it can just steals in your hair too much and blocks off anything else from going in. So that can be a good thing if you use it sparingly. It can be a bad thing if you overuse it. So castor oil, olive oil, almond oil, all these carrier oils that you can use to mix these essential oils in will be great to stimulate hair growth on your hairline as well. Trust me, you will see a huge difference. Okay, so this next tip, I've actually never heard it mentioned before, so hopefully this would help a little bit. My light is going. This is to be very gentle on your scalp when you're adding the same oils I mentioned in tip 4. You have to be very gentle, especially if you already have kind of follicular damage, if you have any hair loss on your hairline. This means your follicles are already fragile, they're already getting damaged. So if you are rough and you actually rub your hairline like this and all this and add so much extra damage, whatever you're doing to your edges, adding the oils, doing scalp massages, is actually just going to make everything worse, okay? You have to be very gentle, and I'm actually filming an entire video only on how to massage your scalp with my favorite oils to boost your hair growth and to increase thickness and health on your hairline. And I will post that video in the description box below as soon as it goes up. And if you want to get the notification for that video when it comes up, hit my face right there to subscribe and hit the bell so that you get notified when I post it. If you didn't in the beginning, watch the 2 videos on the side of the screen right here if you'd like to see any of my older videos. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you guys in my next one. Bye.